Hi guys, welcome once again to the hovel that is Otto's Garage. Okay, so we did the steering rack last time and that's all painted up and everything. I've put all that together now and you can have a quick look at that just as she's mounted up in the car there. And I must admit, I'm very impressed with that. That looks quite nice. There were no leaks in it. I've put new gaiters on it. So yeah, dead easy to put in now because there's no engine there. I would not like to put that in when the engine is in place. That would be a bit of a nightmare, to be fair. One thing that I have done, I cut away the shelf, which basically on the standard car came out and obscured all of this. So that went a long time ago, prior to obviously painting and everything. And that just means that we have got good kind of vertical access now. You can see down onto the rack there. So if we do have any issues in the future, hopefully we should be able to get in there. But she looks real nice and I'm very pleased with how that's all come together. The other thing that I have done there, sneaking on the side, is I've put the first mounting up of the bias pedal box. So what that does is that just replaces where the servo would normally be with a bias arrangement in under here. This will have a cable on it and then it'll have a knob that you can adjust the bias brake from front to back. So you've got a twin cylinder arrangement there, one for the front brakes and one for the rear brakes. They're not in their final position at all. I'm guessing that I'm going to have to mount up a bracket somewhere up here maybe for the reservoirs, but that's a job for after the engine's in probably and when all the other bits and bobs are on. But it's looking smart. I'm liking it. I hope you are too. Right, brake bias. So we've got ourselves a pedal box and that replaces the servo off the original car. So what I'm going to do now is just get the cylinders in there and get it all bolted together and then we can mount that up on the car. So this is the item. Basically this part just replaces the servo. The bolts go through the bulkhead and you've got a standard pedal box on the back side and then you have a pair of twin cylinders on the front. If you have a look on the cylinder itself, it's got a size marking on there and you've got a 0.625 and a 0.7. The 625 generally is for the front, the bigger cylinders for the back, so you've got more fluid being pumped through on the front one to the front brakes basically. It's all about ratios of pressure and what you're pushing through. But basically a small cylinder at the front, big one on the back. So the other thing we've got to do, the balance bar is mounted, if you just see inside there, that gets pushed on the from the brake pedal and then you basically are pressing down on these two pistons, one for the front, one for the back. So one pedal controls the front and the rear circuit and you have a balance bar in the middle, so this spherical bearing is mounted in that tube which is just in there, so you can see that gets mounted in there. And then when you adjust the bar, these will move left and right, and then obviously because it's pivoting about this central fulcrum, depending on how much you move the bar left and right, the spherical bearing will move left and right, and then you'll get more or less force applied to each of these clevises and then down into the piston. So what we've got to do is mount this inside and then we can basically fit the clevises on the end of the threaded rods and we've got to go from there. What I have done is I've measured the center line of these two pistons, which is 68mm, and then we've replicated that on there just to see how it is. So really what we need to try and achieve is that these two clevises are 68mm apart, and that will keep the piston rods nice and straight into them. So with these being 68mm centres, what I've done now is, because obviously I've got to unwind these to actually assemble them and get them back in the right place, what I've done is I've just measured off the end there. So we've basically got from the end of the threaded bar through to the centre of that first clevis, I've got I think it was what is it, it's 43mm, yeah, 43mm. So if I know that, I can take that to bits, put it in there, rewind it up, get that one in the right place, and then we know that from this one to this one is 68, so they should be in the right place as well. Okay, that's those in. What I've done is I've just backed off the master cylinder thread a little bit more, so there's immediately more bias on the front even when you're at a 0 equal position, because obviously it's the front brakes that are needing more fluid, especially with being a big 4-pot caliper on there. But then when you're pressing the pedal in, they basically, you can kind of see how that front one's moving a little bit more than the back one basically. When you adjust the rod left and right, it then will adjust how much bias goes into either piston basically. Right, so when you press the brake, you're basically going to be pushing this through against the pistons like we just showed you, and that's achieved by the clevis bar which comes through. So we're going to have one end of the clevis, I think it's going to go that way actually, will go onto there, and then the other end will come back and that will go onto the standard factory pedal. But the issue that I've got here is that the standard factory pedal has got this little stud sticking out of it, which used to go onto the end of the master cylinder rod on the servo. We've now obviously got the clevis which has got to be mounted onto that pedal. So what I'm going to do is just drill that stud, grind it off, get that out of the way, and then we'll use that hole to mount the new clevis on. Right, I ground the other side of that off and then just punched it through, so we know we've already got a hole there, so basically that's what we're going to use. Right, just going back a couple of episodes, we were doing the rear brake calipers and stripping those down and pushing some parts out of those. The actual calipers themselves now I'm having a look at, we're going to segregate the caliper from the carrier, and that involves the old press again. So on the caliper as it stands, you've basically got a alloy body and a cast steel section, and of course the two corrode together, don't they? They've also decided that there'd be a nice little push-in thing here, so you press in there, the pin dislocates and basically the two will slide apart. But of course the problem with that is that the pin just corrodes over time, so I've drilled that out of there, and then basically just going on to the one on the press, we're now pressing down on the alloy and that's sliding out. You can see how that slid down out of the steel one there. So as we work through it, you can just see she's moving. And the two are coming apart nicely. And I must say, it's an absolute brilliant design. I've no idea why the guy wasn't given the Nobel Prize for design. But anyway, what we've got is what we've got. I can feel that now, it's pretty much loose. And there she goes. Tool tip for you now. Right, this is a rivnut set. So basically what you're doing is you're trying to fit a captivated knot into an existing thing. You don't want to weld it. So basically you can use one of these little guys, which is a rivnut. So it's a bit like a cross between a rivet and indeed a knot. So you can see the threaded end of it in there. And basically what you do is you drill a pilot hole where you're going first, which I've done there. You then have to make that hole as big as the outside of the rivnut. And then when you've done that, you can then insert the rivnut on the end of the rivnut tool. You just open that up. So you open it up first, you put the rivnut on the end of it, and then when you've made your hole, that will go into the hole. You close up the arms, it'll squeeze it up, and then basically it ends up as a captivated nut like that you can just put your standard bolt into. Holds it nice and firm. Great thing is that I think we've got M10s, M8s, all the way down to the little tiddly ones. So great for trim and stuff like that as well. But a brilliant bit of kit, and of course it's off Eric Bay, so I think that was about 30 quid for 900 pieces. Variety of different sizes, so every time you change your rivnut size on the end there, you've got to change the thread that goes into the end of the tool, and then basically you've got a corresponding thread for each size of rivnut. Happy days. Right, so that's the pedal box in position, and you can see in there the balance bar going through to the end of the clevises and the end of the cylinders. Inside the car, we've got the steering column support fitted, and right down at the bottom there you can see the studs that come through from the pedal box on the other side. We've got the pedals there. They're not connected at the moment. Still got a little bit of work to determine the length of the clevis pin from the brake pedal through to the balance bar on the other side. So what we've got at the moment is basically quite a shortened clevis pin arrangement, but it just needs a little bit of work on it. And the other issue is as well, of course, where I cut that stud off the side of the pedal to make the hole through, we've got to in effect reinvent the wheel, because we've got to have that was on the center line basically, and just to put a hole through the pedal and then put the clevis pin on there means that the push rod will be off center from the pedal. So we've got to basically have the push rod mounted up the side of the pedal, which is going to mean a bit of fabrication work. I think a strong bracket on the side of the pedal needs welding on. Right, we'll just have a quick look underneath again. We've now been able to get a hold of the bar that goes from the diff across to that front trailing arm there. So I've just fitted that on. The only issue that I've got at the moment is that I'm waiting for some spacers to come, because the distance here needs spacing out. Obviously this arm's a lot narrower than the factory arm, and then on the inside as well we just got a little bit of play in there as well, so I need a little bit of spacing done on that. But I do like the look of that, and I'm very lucky that the powder coating of my arms is exactly the same colour as the OMP red. But that's great. That's without a doubt, with all the braces on everywhere around there, that's stiffened the whole back end up, no doubt. The only concern that I have got is that obviously on this rear brace here, which comes across and mounts up onto the rear anti-roll, I don't think that on the original factory studs that we're going to have enough length to get nuts on and the anti-roll bar on. So I might have to come up with a different option for how that's mounted on there, or maybe something a little bit different for the anti-roll, I don't know. Anyway, that's all looking tidy. Just need those spacers and we can get that finished off. So in the back you can see now where we've just fitted the straps for the fuel tank down through into the rivnuts underneath. They go through the boot floor. What I haven't got at the moment is we're going to mount the tank on some rubber strips underneath, and then the straps will need a bit of rubber strip on them as well. So that'll mean that we've got the bolts will then be in tension and squeezed against the rubber, so that'll provide a self-locking action on there. But we'll put some locking washers on the top anyway, just for good measure. So that's the tank that side. Round the other side, you can see the tank in that position from inside the car. So we're going to do the same thing with the straps going down into the floor there. Mark them up, keep it nice and tight, get the rivnuts in, and then that can be bolted down. And then basically the tank will be pretty much in its final resting place. Okay, so that's the tank fitted. Like I say, we are going to put some rubbers around that just to try and obviously stop any wobbling and vibration and stuff. But the other thing that we are going to need to do, and I'll do that in due course, is that obviously just running the fuel injection straight off the tank can be a bit iffy. So it's going to need a swirl pot putting in there, and obviously there's some fuel pumps to go in as well. The takeoff down the bottom of the tank there will go to the swirl pot. The swirl pot will then be pumped to the fuel injection, and away she'll go. So we've still got a bit more work in there to do, but at least we've got the tank in there. We know what kind of space we're working with. Okay, so with the tank in place, we've still got a bit more work to do, but I'm going to say thanks for watching Otto's Garage. Stay safe, have a good one guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.